Billy Stairmand, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Thanks. Cheers, boys. Cheers for having me.
Very excited to have you in the Export Beer Garden studio. It's been a bit of an interesting week for us dealing with the surfing community in the build-up to this ep. At 8 p.m. last night, I sent a bit of a stressed-out message to your lovely wife, Liana, about today's recording. We'd sent a bunch of messages out to all your mates throughout the week and hadn't heard anything back. Then, between the hours of, I think, midnight and 3 a.m., we just got a flurry of messages. It was like they were awake and alive. So the question is late night, last minute, a fair stereotype of the surfing community?
I think maybe last minute for me definitely is a pretty good assumption. But yeah, I think my wifey's down the South Island at work, and the boys like to push it out to the last minute to do anything. So that's funny they came through real late last night. But yeah, and I actually stayed at a friend's last night, and he was like, you guys started following me, like trying to get some insight into the podcast and stuff. And he was like, oh really? And he accepted it this morning, and I was like, bro, it's too late now.
Yeah, too little too late, Nick. Nice work on the late reply. Universally kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like consistent feedback on you as a person and who you are from your friend group. So they're either very, very well trained or you are a very consistent human, and what you see is what you get. And I'm looking forward to kind of finding out which one of the two those are.
Oh, that's nice. Cheers, whoever sent that stuff in. I'm stoked.
Yeah, it took a while, but once it came in, it was good stuff. So looking forward to getting into it. We're actually very lucky to get you in a small window that you're in Auckland, and it just sort of linked up really well. How many months of this year have you been out of the country?
Yeah, this year's been super busy. Started in Australia doing the regional events, then came home for maybe 3 weeks, and then Australia again, El Salvador, Indonesia, South Africa, home for a second, Tahiti. It's been a super busy year, but I feel like I've been home for maybe 2 months, 3 months of the year max. I spent almost 4 months away for the one trip. I went to Aussie, and then I went to El Salvador for Olympic qualification, then Indonesia for an event, South Africa and Tahiti for a training camp. And yeah, it's been super busy. So I do love traveling, and I love competing and chasing my dream and my goals. And I love me traveling. It really makes me appreciate how good and beautiful New Zealand is. So it's quite refreshing going away and exciting. It's always exciting for me, and it's normally during a kind of competition, so I'm revved up and ready to go. And then and then when I come home, it's really refreshing and calming to come home to New Zealand, and the fresh air and the people are so nice, and I can actually speak English. And
you know how there's 10 years on a passport, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever clocked a passport with the amount of travel that you've done and had to renew one within that 10 years?
I think my previous passport was pretty full up. But these days, you kind of just put them in the machines now.
Yeah, actually, Sorry, I'm operating back in the 2000s. I'll put my hands. I'm showing my age. Yeah, you're right. E-gates. What am I thinking?
Yeah. But there's still a few stamps out there. I actually like the stamps, because it kind of shows you where you've been and stuff. And I've got my old passports that I hold on to. I went for a period and I kind of held on to my boarding passes, but they got way too thick, and I had to throw them out. But it's a lot of travel.
Serious air points.
Yeah,
racked up there.
Yeah, I do. It's like I try and travel with the same person, but we travel to so many different places. It's hard to stay on the one airline. Air New Zealand's amazing, but it's a little bit more expensive. And then obviously I've normally fly Qantas to Australia, and then Emirates, to basically everywhere, because Dubai's like one of the biggest hubs to go through to anywhere. And then the little ones around everywhere we go. So. I do have a few for sure. I just booked a flight to Dunedin for the Nationals at the start of the year, actually, and used my points, which is helpful.
Yeah, there you go.
How many front of the plane or second level of the plane versus sitting down the back of you?
I don't mind that question.
There's a lot, because there's a lot of hours sitting around in there. You want to do it in relative comfort, but is that a reality?
Yeah, I'd love to be up the front and the top. Not often I've been up the front. I think I've flown business once or twice, and I've been upgraded back from Hawaii and stuff like that, but it is expensive to fly those top ones, and I use my points if I do want it to upgrade or anything. But Yeah, I'm always at the back in the cattle class, as they call it, and I'm pretty small, so I've got a bit of space to move at the back.
Allow me in my little. These are my kind of just airport. You would travel with a shitload of stuff as well, right? How good are you at wangling and talking people down from excess luggage charges?
Yeah, you learn so much, traveling especially with big surfboard bags, and I travel with like at least 6 surfboards in one board bag, and it's with wetsuits and towels and stuff. It can get pretty heavy. So we've learned a few tricks. There's the old put the backpack on the ground and then put the boards and the tail of the boards on the backpack, so the weight's a little bit lighter.
It's good.
Or put the foot under the
I've done that one.
Yeah, under the weigher or whatever. And kind of it takes off a few kgs there. Or if worst comes to worst, chuck everything on yourself first, and then. And then hopefully you go around the corner, stack the board bag up, and chuck it on and check it in. So there's so many ways. We got done on the way to El Salvador, and they were only allowing 3 boards per board bag. And another competitor had gone through earlier, and they had no qualms at all. They just got through sweet as, just had to pay like $100 or something. We got there. No, you can't have. I had 6 boards, and we can't have 3. You can only have 3 per board bag. So I had to take them out. We went to a store that they didn't sell surfboard bags, but they had this black like bubble wrap type thing. Yeah. So we put 3 boards or put some towels around it, some wetsuits, wrapped it up with this like black tape, and checked it in, and they were sweet. And the boards actually managed to be sweet.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, when we got there, which was pretty lucky.
Hard
and that
to wear a surfboard on a plane if you need to.
Yeah.
Can't teach experience, really. That's some good tips there. Right, so it's time to get to know Billy. Like I said, your friends have come in. A few random ones here. I'm not really sure where they're going to go, but we're going to try it out. So Billy, how good are you at running it straight?
Oh, bro. I know exactly where this is coming from. Yeah, so not very good, actually, from this story. So this is like almost 2 years ago now. After COVID, I'd been away for like 4 months, I think, and I wasn't sure I could get home. It was, during the quarantines, and I didn't actually have a MIQ spot, and I was in Hawaii for so long trying to get a spot to come back, and I luckily got the spot I'd needed and just got out in time for before Christmas. And all of us boys have this Boxing Day Classic, which is like a golf day, and it's after Christmas and stuff, so we can kind of all celebrate together and have a few beers. And I hadn't seen anyone in like 4 months, and I'd just come out of quarantine, so I was pretty excited. So we're playing golf, I think it was, they've changed it to a team thing now, but it was like an individual thing, and it was like, it came down to the last hole, bit of a competition. We're all drinking, there's like, we've got competitions each hole and stuff like that, to have a shot or whatever it is. And then it comes down to the last hole, and it's actually a tie, so we have to go back and do the hole again. And by this point, I hadn't really drunken like too much, so I was pretty drunk. I was pretty mega. And then coming up the 18th again, I kind of remember the last bit of the hole, and then I hadn't eaten much, and I was just so excited to be around my mates and like all my friends, and I was probably being super cheeky to all the boys, and obviously I'm pretty small, and all my mates are pretty big. So I think I was giving the boys, like, run it straight, and then I'd come to the end of the game, and I was like pretty much stumbling, and I'd ask one of my mates to, I'll run it straight at you, and I like pretty much stumbled across over to him. He just pretty much dropped the shoulder. I was like, I just got so smashed in the chest, like pretty much like cracked my whole chest bones. And there's a funny video we've all got, but yeah, and my neck like fully whiplashes. I pretty much like get knocked out, and I'm like laying down on the ground, and I was just that's the last time I'll try and run it straight. I mean, I used to play rugby, but I didn't grow after the age of 10, so the running straight definitely stopped after that.
That'd be a good one to explain to the New Zealand Olympic Committee.
Yeah.
How have you injured yourself again?
Yeah, that
Billy?
was a few years ago now, so yeah. That was after the Olympics.
I was trying to think as well, like, when as an adult do you run it straight with your... I was like, really... That explains everything now. Yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah, and like I said, I was so excited to see everyone, so I was just, like, the camaraderie was there, and I was trying to be cheeky, I guess, and
You can understand that, Fizz.
Yeah.
I can understand
and
that.
I thought it
Fizz.
would have been sweet, but nah, definitely wasn't sweet.
Hey, you learn. Experience again. Good start. All right, next one. Tell us about fantasy surfing and why are you so bad at it?
Yeah, again, we've got a big group together, and we all put money in at the start of the year and make our fantasy surf teams together. And
Which I didn't know was a real thing.
Yeah.
It's like proper website and
Yeah,
everything,
fantasy
like
football,
regulated.
EPL.
yeah. So you get points, obviously, for each contest, whoever you pick, and there's tiers. Well, there's two, actually. There's a WSL one, and then there's a fantasy surfer one. And we're on the fantasy surf one, and you get like a budget to spend on what athlete you want. And I think it's a max of 8 surfers or something.
Have you got yourself in your own team?
I'm not allowed. I'm not actually in there because it's the
Ah,
CT, it's the WCT. Yeah, so hopefully I'll get there one day. But yeah, so we all get together and we put a bit of money in at the start of the year, and we've got a big chat, and it's a good way to talk to each other about the competitions, get excited about it and stuff like that. So. And I'm just, I don't know, you'd think I'd be really good at picking a team, but I'm actually real average. I always end up in the middle somehow. I'm like, this guy's going to do good.
We've heard bottom.
Yeah,
We've heard bottom, not
of course,
middle.
yeah.
Yeah, that was what I think this one came from Jesse, was it? I can't remember, but he said he's traveling the world with these guys every month. He should have inside knowledge.
Yeah.
And he's just terrible.
Oh, I know, yeah. Like that's what I say. I'm like, I'm really bad at this game for some reason. I mean, I see the waves and I know the competitors and I know how they surf in those conditions, and I don't know, I just can't get it together somehow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would also struggle to. How do they even score that? But that's probably opening a whole window to a different world that I will never understand.
Nah, I think it goes off their placing in the event.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and then you get so many points for however your athlete goes or your athletes go.
Yeah. You can understand that?
Yeah, I got that part.
Yeah.
All right. So this might be unfair on the cats, but it's been described that you've got 2 Siamese cats that look like ball bags, and they travel everywhere with you.
Yeah, we've got 2 fearless ball sacks actually at home.
What about the cats?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Hey!
Yeah, sorry, and the cats as well. No, yeah, we've got 2 Sphinx cats at home. They're a pretty fresh addition to our family. We've also got a dog named Obi. We've had him for like 7 years now. He's the best dog. He's like a Staffy cross pity lab type thing. We rescued him, and he's been the best boy ever. But yeah, we've got these 2 Sphinx cats that at the start I was like, what the hell are these things? Like I never even thought I'd even see one of them. And then we were meant to go to England before COVID happened, and then obviously my wife had a bit of money saved up and we couldn't go to England or anything, so she bought a little Sphinx cat named Winnie, the first one is. And then we got they're actually the funniest characters. They run around like headless chickens pretty much, and they're really affectionate. They're so funny, and they're fun to take on tour. But I made the mistake of the second one. I made the mistake of making a deal with Liana. If I won a competition, would get another one. But the competition I won, I only won enough prize money to bloody buy the cat. So I was like,
I didn't,
in the fine print, I didn't specify what we were going to, what competition it was going to be. So then we got Pablo, and we got a funny little family at home. They're good animals, and we love coming home and traveling with them.
What's the feel of a Sphinx cat? Do you pat it, or does it nestle on your lap? Like it feels quite odd. Like you'd have to oil it up or something to be
so
comfortable with it.
they're super soft. They're they're quite silky. Kind of like. It's a weird feeling. Heaps of people come over, a few of my mates come over, and they're just like, "Ooh, I don't want to touch that."
Yeah, I'd fall into that camp. I think.
But once they pet it and see the nature of it, they actually get into it and like them. But it's a weird feeling, and they actually like my beard. They like the scratching of my beard, and they're super affectionate. They'll come up and give you love and purr, and then they'll boost off and start playing around the house. They're pretty funny.
Interesting. You have to put a jacket on them or anything in winter?
Yeah.
Too many.
Yeah, too many. They actually get sunburnt. And they get cold.
We might have listeners wanting to buy a Sphinx cat, and this is critical.
Liana's got all sorts of outfits she keeps buying. I'm like, oh, really? But we just bought a tent to put them outside and stuff like this. It's
the
just
whole world.
It's honestly like having a little baby.
Yeah.
You got to clean up after them. They've got a little litter tray. Kind of inside or out the back a little bit, and Yeah, and you got to like bath them, and they're fully like little babies.
Yeah, I feel like
Clean
a
them,
Sphinx
look
cat,
up,
there'd be, even the cat would kind of be like, I'm very different to
Yeah.
other cats around
Yeah.
here, therefore you should respect me.
Pretty much. Winnie's definitely like that. She's a full princess, walks around like.
Winnie and Pablo.
Yeah, Winnie and
Shout
Pablo.
out Winnie and Pablo.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, I'm going to move us out of cat chat because we've got a lot to get to, and I can see you guys would be going for a while. All right, I want to talk about growing up in Raglan. We had DK, Daniel Kiriopa, on one of our episodes about 2 years ago, and it was one of the ones we loved the most. And he talked about the importance of Raglan and what it meant to him and growing up there. Is it the same for you? Like, what are your memories? Have you been at Raglan your whole life?
Yeah, yep, born and bred from Raglan. I was born in Hamilton Hospital, actually, and then grew up in Raglan my whole life. Haven't really left, unless, I'm travelling for competitions. But, yeah, growing up in Raglan's awesome, It's such a beautiful town. It's perfect for a surfer. There's always waves. The rugged, raw West Coast is really refreshing. The community has been awesome, throughout my career and growing up. I started playing rugby when I was younger and thought I was going to be an All Black, but stopped growing when I was 10, so moved to surfing. But, I love Raglan, and like I say, after travelling all the time, coming back and coming into the community and kind of seeing familiar faces and seeing people that have watched you grow into the person you are today is really like humbling and refreshing and it's really nice having that community vibe there. And we've had obviously a lot of talented people come out of Raglan, especially musicians lately as well, like Reiki and Moroki and stuff like that. So I feel like there's a lot of talent hidden in Raglan, and it sometimes can be hard to get out of Raglan. It's such a beautiful little bubble, but fortunately for me, I got sponsored when I was young, and I was able to travel and experience a bit of the world. But I feel like growing up in Raglan, it was pretty rugged at times as well. I went to the area school there, and from the age of 5 to 17, I think it was, I went to the same school year in, year out, and learnt a lot through those years, and the surf academy as well. Kind of helped me with my competitive career, and I think it's an awesome community. It's growing right now. There's a lot more people coming to town and enjoying our beautiful home. And
when you come back now, you're not in Raglan very often in the year. If you were to walk down the main street, how many times would you get stopped?
I don't know. You quite a bit.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
But obviously, growing up there, and the Olympics and I don't know, the Slater stuff and all these things have happened in my career. So coming from a small town like that, you get to know everyone, and everyone gets to know who you are and how you're doing, and gets on board and starts following your journey and supporting you.
The surfing journey itself, started surfing at 8. When did you realise you had a real talent at this? Like, when did people start paying attention to Billy the surfer?
Yeah. So growing up in Raglan, it's hard to like get away from surfing and rugby, I guess. But my dad was always a surfer, and he took me out when I was 8 or 9, after I could swim properly and stuff like that. Took me down to the beach. I remember vividly actually taking me down to the beach and kind of pushing me into a few waves down there. I remember running over a rock and knocking one of my dad's fins out. He wasn't too pressed about that. But I guess from pretty young, I actually started skating when I was younger too. They used to have this awesome half pipe down there, and I was dropping in from a young age back in the day before I started surfing. And then I guess that kind of helped with my balance and pushed me into surfing. And then I just found the bug for the ocean pretty quickly, and the love for that being out there in the elements and spending the whole day and feeling just like so salty and like just feeling surfed out, as we say it, and it's just such a cool feeling. So I started surfing when I was 8 or 9, and then kind of progressed pretty quickly, and then I did my first national scholastics event in Raglan when I was 13, and that was the first day I got sponsored as well when I was 13 by Oakley at the time. So I guess having that support from then on as well really helped. Kind of gave me that extra confidence, and someone believed in you to do well competitively, and kind of gave me that extra boost to follow my dreams and kind of become a professional surfer.
There's a real interesting balance between like recreational surfing and learning to surf and then moving into competitive surfing, which you seem to do at quite an early age. Did you still have like a real love for the ocean and a love for just being out there despite the competition element starting quite early?
Yeah, for sure. I love being in the water, It's just so, I don't know, there's a different sort of energy out there for sure. And now in the past years, I've been like say, for instance, I'll come to the city for 3 days or something. I'll be like, nah, I need to get out of here. I need to get to the ocean and get in the surf. And it just, I don't know, it just makes me pretty grounded and kind of appreciates what I'm doing and where I am in my life right now. And I always loved surfing. I'm really competitive as well. So it kind of worked out perfectly, in my favor. And it kind of just transitioned real easily into competitive surfing. And I still love it to this day. Like I'll check the surf, even if it's really crap. I'll just go for a surf, even if I'm feeling down or I've been sitting inside doing stuff on my computer or something for a few hours. I'll be like, I need to get out of here and just get in the surf and get in the ocean, even if it's crappy. And I always feel refreshed and ready to go after that.
I want to check I've got the timelines right here, because we've been in touch with Luke Sederman, who does the very popular Raglan surf report.
Yeah.
And you said you're competing in the Nationals at 13, 14. He said when he was a Grom, he would wear polystyrene neoprene sleeves until he was 13 or 14 for confidence. Were you wearing these sort of floaty sleeves when you were competing in the Nationals?
No, I wasn't. I'm not sure where that's come from. But no, I don't know. No, obviously it's pretty cold in the winters and stuff. We're wearing waddies and stuff. But I can't remember wearing neoprene like fluoro rash shirts for an event.
That was the only thing he gave us.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you
Really?
got to tell about your
like
sleeves.
6 hours. 6 hours scene, and then 6 hours later, like, I don't know from my memory. So when he was a Grom, he used to wear these like neoprene, like polystyrene floaties, like not floaties, but like these sleeves to keep him buoyant in the water. When he was a kid, I was like, okay. I was like, your YouTube game is really, really good, and like your
of course he'd say something random like
his
that.
videos with you are excellent in terms of like the GoFundMe stuff.
Luke's a really good friend of mine, and he's a few years older than me. And when I was growing up, I looked up to those guys. DK as well, Luke Sederman, Luke Hughes, Murahu Roberts. All these talented guys growing up in Raglan. Leon Santorik even. And Luke was always a funny one, and obviously he's done really well now recently with his YouTube and stuff like that. But he's so funny. He's good to hang around with, and he's always a laugh and always got funny ideas to come up with. But he was he still rips to this day as well. But he was one of the the guys I would always look up to if I was surfing in Raglan and watch his surfing and try and learn off those guys.
DK reckons that balance of super competitive that love surfing is quite a rarity. Are you the kind of outlier in terms of that ability to cross both worlds?
Yeah, I think, like you say, it's there's like I feel like there's not too many super competitive surfers. A lot of people start surfing for their love of ocean, for the love of the ocean, and they kind of just want to try something new, and they love it. They find the love for the ocean. Whereas the competitive side is totally different. You got to train a lot more, and you got to be super focused on the conditions and what equipment you're riding, and I don't know, for me that's super exciting. And like I say, I'm super competitive in no matter what sport I do or kind of anything I do really. So I think that's helped me, in my journey and my career. Obviously, it's definitely helped me in my career to get to where I am today. And I went through a few weird patches where I, lost a few sponsors and stuff like that, and some family stuff happened, and I found that the love of the ocean kind of brought me back to wanting to do that again, and kind of grounded me and kind of helped me in my path.
Yeah, your story is really inspirational and great, and we're going to get to the adversity soon. I'm just going to paint a picture, according to your wife Liana, of perhaps why rugby didn't take off and surfing did. So I'm just going to read what she sent through. Billy and I were visiting his parents' home early on in our relationship. The fridge had a ton of family photos on it, and I was looking at all the pictures when I noticed one in particular. It was of a skinny little kid with long blonde hair and a wetsuit. I said to Bills, "Who is that little girl?" He burst out laughing and said, "That's not a little girl, that's me." Billy proceeded to tell me that when he was a grom, he wanted to be a rugby player like a lot of kids in New Zealand, and he excelled because he was fast, but he also had this blonde hair, and all the other kids thought he was a girl, so they would avoid tackling him. Billy excels at pretty much every sport, but sadly his aspirations of a rugby career were brought to a halt with a case of head lice, which shortly followed a shaved head. Luckily, it gave way to a realisation that surfing might be more suited. Which ties in nicely with another story I'd heard, that you used to get player of the day half the time in rugby games because the opposition team thought you were a girl.
Yes. So like I said before, I used to love playing rugby growing up. Obviously in New Zealand, you know, you always want to be an All Black as a male growing up. It's kind of the pathway, I guess, for young males, I guess, in a way, and you know, if you're into sport. But yeah, I started rugby when I was young. I remember watching some footage. Like, I used to go with my granddad and he'd film some weekends, and there's some like VCR footage I've got just, I don't know, stored away somewhere. But watching that back is just so funny. But yeah, I used to have super long hair, long blonde hair, like straight as, and you know, even in the surf, I used to like, people would be like, "Oh, who's that girl ripping out there?" So, and I actually used to be called my mum, because my mum was, when she had me, she was super young. She was like 18 or something. So once I grew up, she always looked pretty young. So once I had my long blonde hair, I actually used to be called her younger sister. Yeah, and then once I was on the rugby field, you know, I actually wore the headgear, and I had the long blonde locks hanging out, and I was pretty nifty around the park, and I didn't know this at the time, but now looking back at it, I obviously would look like a girl on the rugby pitch, and probably got more player of the days than I should have. But yeah, I loved rugby, and it was so much fun, and yeah, I got to a point I did get nits, and yeah, the dad had to shave my hair, and I wasn't too impressed about it because I loved my long blonde hair, but yeah, I got to a point in rugby where I'd stopped growing, and it was kind of dangerous on injuries and stuff like that, and then I kind of turned to surfing. But yeah, I wish I could still play rugby. Hopefully I'll get more player of the days without long hair.
What about growing the hair back? You ever thought about really getting those long locks back?
Probably not. I don't know. I'm getting to an age now. I'm probably thinning on the top a little bit. You know, I don't know if it'll grow back. Yeah.
We all are, my friend.
I don't know if it'll grow back as long as I'd hoped. But
that's good.
Yeah. But that was a pretty funny. I kind of knew something like that would pop up.
Good choice to stick with surfing, because 8-time national champion, record holder, most consistent entry of any of the country's top surfers. When you start winning these national titles at a young age, and then it's 1 and 2 and 3, does it still mean a lot when you're expecting to win? If you've won it for the 4th time and you win it for the 5th time, does it still, like, what does that carry for you, being a national champion?
Yeah, since day one, I always wanted to be a national champion. I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of history behind it. You know, events come and go, you know, sponsored events come and go, and then there's the nationals that stuck around since 1963, I think it is. So, yeah, I've always wanted to, you know, etch my name on that trophy and become one of the greatest surfers in New Zealand. That's always been a goal of mine. Not only in New Zealand, but internationally as well. But yeah, so once I started, you know, won my first one in Gisborne, I was only 20, I think, at the time, and I just started doing the QS as well at that time, and I remember that nationals vividly. It was so much fun, and I like just the feeling of winning a national title. You know, you beat the best in New Zealand, and you know, growing up with these guys like Ricardo and Murahu and DK, and you know, everyone's in the nationals. You know, there's a lot of prestige behind it. So every year, yeah, has its own goal, I guess, and something I really want to achieve. Like, sometimes I went through a weird patch where I won like 4 in a row, I think, and then I'd lose one, win one, lose one, win one. So when I lost one, it was more motivation. You know, I didn't have that target on my back, so I could fight for it a bit more. But in saying that, being the guy to chase is real motivating for me too. I want to almost lead by example and kind of show people that anything is possible, and doing those nationals and having these groms, you know, bite at your feet, trying to get that title off me is real motivating. And I'm like, nah, but not this year, boys. So it's, you know, it gives me that extra motivation and confidence in myself to kind of push me to another level and do my best at those national events. And yeah, I've won 8 now, and that's going to be a pretty hard target for anyone else to beat. I think the most was 5. So. Yeah, to have 8 is pretty special.
It's bloody impressive, mate. What's the ratio of luck to skill to win an individual competition? Like, do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. So there's a lot of strategy in heat surfing or competition surfing, which comes into play, I think, with my experience as well. I've done this for over competitively strong for 13, 15 years now. So. I've learnt over the years how to lose and learn from those mistakes and take them into my next heats and you know, strategize them a bit better and in ways that I can beat the other competitors or make my heat a better one. So, but yeah, there's a lot of luck as well. You know, there's not one wave that is exactly the same. So the conditions are always changing. We could be at a point break, we could be at a beach break, could be 6 foot or 2 meters, and could be 1 meter. You know, we could be riding different boards. So there's a lot of things and factors to take on board when you go into a competition. But yeah, I feel like growing up, I had a lot of, I don't want to talk myself up, but a lot of natural talent as well as a lot of, you know, competitive mongrel. So putting that together kind of, you know, helped me in my longevity and my career and helped me with my results.
Is your mindset unique in that competitive surfing kind of environment? Like, I'm listening to you talk about strategy and different techniques and tactics, and again, no idea about the world of surfing, but to me it seems quite foreign from that notion of going out and riding a wave. Like, have you got a strategic mind by nature?
Yeah, for sure. I think mentally I'm pretty strong, I think, and I focus on the task at hand, and I learn from my experiences and I really take them on board, and even in life I'll take, you know, any experiences, good or bad, and take them on board and learn from them, and you know, either try and do that again or try and not do that again. And I feel like competitively I feel like I've got an edge on a lot of competitors. Just like I feel like sometimes us as Kiwis, we can be quite laid back and say, for instance, you see the Kelly Slater in a heat, and some people might be like, oh no, it's Kelly Slater, you know, I'm a little bit nervous or I'm scared, I kind of don't want to beat him, you know, he's the best. Whereas for me, I really embraced those moments and wanted to take them. I had nothing to lose. You know, so, and to be able to beat the best is always what you want to do. So I use those as like motivations and kind of like to bring out the better, you know, competitor in me.
Yeah, tell us the full story. Let's move to 2011.
Yeah, I love how you dealt with it as a hypothetical. Some people might be racing up against Kelly Slater and think...
It's just because everyone knows Kelly Slater, you know? He's like,
yeah, but you've actually gone and beaten the man on man in a heat in Australia, which is incredible.
Yeah, so timestamp us. Like, what stage of the career were you in? Did you have sponsors? Like, how did you beat him, and then what happened afterwards?
Yeah, so after my first national title, I was 20. I had a full year on the QS, travelling with Jay Quinn and Ricardo. You know, they kind of took me on board and helped me kind of get into that type of competition, you know, competing against the world's best. And then we'd have an event in Margaret River every year, which was like this massive event. There was 144 athletes, I think, from around the world. You'd get the top guys like Mick Fanning and CJ Hobgood at the time, and Kelly Slater and Geordie Smith, and you know, all these top guys, and then you'd see us in the starting rounds. And at the time, I think I was 21, and I actually had a heat with Kelly Slater and 2 other guys in a previous round in the same competition. He actually got me, damn it. But we both progressed, and then we both made another heat, and then we ended up in the same heat again, just man on man, myself and him out there. There's a funny video online somewhere that, you know, at the time, no one really knew. Internationally, no one really knew who I was. I was sponsored by Oakley at the time, and I'd done a few photo shoots and stuff like that, so my career was kind of just, easing up. And then, the video out there is funny. It's Kelly Slater, best of all time, like 11 times world champion. He's getting ready for his heat. Everyone's around him, all his coaches and stuff, and then he runs down the boardwalk and there's like this massive crowd like, yeah, go Kelly. And then there's me, and I'm with one of my best mates and like mentors, coach at the time, Tommy Whitaker, and it's just me and him like in the back, like talking over some stuff. I've got this long blonde hair again, and like I've got this massive board because it was quite big, and then I run out and there's just no one around. So I'm running out for my heat. Like I say, at that time that was like probably the least nervous I've ever been, because I was coming up against a world champion. I had nothing to lose. If I lost, no one would even really think about it. As Kelly Slater wins another heat. But if I win, it would be an awesome thing for me to, notch in my career. So I went out there, and it was actually really big and wild, and Margaret River can be quite scary. There's a lot of sharks around, and it was quite, big open ocean waves, and we kind of like traded off in the first two waves. We both got a pretty similar score, and then I was out the back, and I like going left because I'm coming from Raglan. There's long left-hand point break, so I got chipped into this big left and did two pretty big turns, and I probably would have made it look bigger because I was like, I'm pretty small, and I had this huge board, and then I pedaled back out, and I had a 9. So I had a 9 and a 7.5, I think, at the time, 7.5 and a 9-point ride. And then Kelly Slater needed a 9 to beat me, and he got this wave, got barreled, did a turn, and did like another little turn, and just got an 8.5, and just didn't get to score. So I'd won the heat at the time, and I couldn't believe it, honestly. I was out in the water tripping out. I couldn't really hear much, and my friend Ricardo was in the heat after me against Mick, I think it was. And then it was weird. It felt like I came into the beach, and the crowd had actually known who I was now, and everyone wanted to cheer me up the beach. It felt like I won the competition, and like
that pedal in.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, yeah. And I knew, it was going to be a whirlwind after that, because it was a man-on-man, and, you don't often get that many opportunities to do that with a goat like him. So I came in, and it's a big wall walk, and people were like, oh, jump on my shoulders, I'll cheer you up. Like, it's probably like the third round or something. There's probably like 5 more rounds to surf to the final. So I got cheered up, and the commentator was on the mic asking me questions, and then Oakley at the time like throwed some random hat on my end, like these huge aviators, they just wanted to get some branding on my face, and I was doing these funny interviews, and I remember going home after that to our apartment, and just like the joy was just overwhelming. Like I was in the shower, kind of like, I think I had a heat that afternoon as well. So, I progressed, and then I was in the shower and I was singing away, like using all this energy. And I remember my coach, Tommy, at the time, and he was like, bro, just settle down, save some energy. You got another heat to surf, reset, get ready for your next one. So, yeah, it was a crazy experience, and that kind of skyrocketed my surf career, I guess. That helped with, people knowing who I was. And
yeah, was it intense media exposure? Like, was it New Zealand media all over it?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think, and I wasn't, it was crazy. I did a lot of interviews in these weird rooms to media in New Zealand, and actually all around the world, because I wasn't on the WCT, and I was kind of just starting my QS career. So no one actually had any clue of, who I was. Well, I was just this small little New Zealander going up against the GOAT. So it was crazy. There was a lot of attention, a lot of media, stuff to do. And I remember, calling back to New Zealand a few times and jumping on the TV and stuff. It was pretty crazy.
Does a Kelly Slater congratulate you afterwards? Is there like a moment between you two, or is he off the beach and then into his entourage and off again?
Oh, I've actually played golf with him a few times, and we kind of hung out in the past years. So
that's a low-key flex if ever I fucking
we've kind of become like, I don't know, mutual friends, I guess. But he's never really brought it up. So after it, I can't remember there any being like, oh, congrats, mate. It was more like, I think he was pretty gutted at the time because he would have thought who is this guy? I should be smashing him. But yeah, the interviews are funny. Like I do my interview and I was like, oh yeah, he's a pretty like cool cat, you know. We didn't talk that much, you know, this little Kiwi accent. And he's like, yeah, you know, if I didn't give, you know, if I had Billy's wave, I probably would have beat him and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, this is so different to what I'm used to, you know, all these cameras and yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, you should try and find the video. It's a classic.
Is there much interaction between surfers on tour, like, or does people keep to themselves, or?
On tour or in the competition?
Oh, in either.
In the competition, there's not much chatting going on. It kind of depends on who you are. You might be able to have a chat, but try and get in someone's mind.
Yeah, I was going to. Is there shithousery?
Sometimes I think, yeah. Like it's a very individual sport, so you know everyone's out for themselves. Yeah, and the QS and the WCT is very competitive. You know, it's the top of the top, so everyone wants to win. But once I think you get on land, you know, you become friends and camaraderies, and you kind of share some stories and share your experiences. You know, everyone's going through the same tour and the same, you know, competition. So everyone wants to win, but then everyone wants to have a good time as well. So yeah, there's a lot of, everyone is very competitive for sure. But I don't know if there's much like talking as say, or yeah, there's sometimes some leg rope grabbing and
oh wow,
yeah, like elbow
dark
pumping,
arts.
yeah, like paddling and yeah.
Good luck with that one, asshole. Your funeral, mate.
Yeah.
A moment like that, beating Kelly Slater, in this profession, which is hard to get sponsors, and when you do, they love their exposure. Does that kind of lock you? Does that give you an extra couple of years? Like, what does that do for you long term in terms of like Oakley?
Yeah, for sure it helped, for sure. Yeah, at the time I was with Oakley, and they looked after me very well. You know, they brought me on board, and I was pretty quickly to be doing like being one of the faces of Australia and New Zealand. You know, doing catalogs and doing photo shoots and stuff like that. So yeah, I was very thankful for them to be able to kind of take me on board and fund my travels and sponsor me for those years. But yeah, after that, the Kelly heat, it definitely would have helped with funds for the part, like the years after and years to come. And I've never really had a manager, so I've kind of just done it off my own back. And those years I kind of just took what I was given, and I was kind of like pretty and I'm always pretty humble for whatever I get, and I'm pretty happy with anything I get. So I was getting pretty looked after. I was getting all the main gears and getting travel budgets, and I didn't have to have a job at the time, and I got to travel and live out my dream, so I was happy, So yeah, that Kelly Slater definitely helped. And contracts sometimes have incentives for competition placings, and it depends on how you sign it. But yeah, obviously, if you do well in a competition, you get more money, and So after those years, it definitely helped my longevity with that brand at the time, and yeah, I was with them for 13 years.
That might help link us up to a difficult part of your journey, because up until now it seems, you've winning national titles, you're beating Kelly Slater, you've got the sponsor on board, you're travelling the world.
I thought you were going to say you were riding the wave of success, but you
Yeah.
stayed away from it,
Yeah.
and it was good. And I've walked in like a big dopey bear. Into
That's a common headline.
Yeah, exactly. Into the cliche headline.
But then, and it's around 2017, and it's almost, from what I understand, a bit of a double whammy. You lose your mum, and you drop a sponsor drops you around that same time period. Can you talk to us about leading into that and what happened and how you dealt with it?
Yeah, so after the Kelly heat, I actually won a competition in Spain. Everything was going pretty good for a few years there, and I was living out my dream and enjoying life. And then the old C-bomb comes along, cancer, and mum unfortunately got breast cancer. So I think, it's hard to point a finger on where exactly stuff started to go not the greatest. But yeah, I think after that it kind of hit home. I was always really close with my mum. She was young when she had me, and growing up as a young mum, I guess you become real close with your son or daughter or whatever you have. So, yeah, we were really close, and that kind of hit home a bit, and I went for a weird stage, and my competitions weren't going the greatest, and I was probably worrying about what mum was up to, and kind of trying to impress her and help her in some way. And after like a year or so, my competitions weren't going the greatest. Mum was doing a lot of chemo, and I think it was quite taxing on my body and mind, I think. And then, Oakley kind of slowly dropped off. They didn't just suddenly drop me, they kind of pulled away from the major sponsor, and it was eyewear for a bit, and then it slowly kind of just dropped off, and my competitions didn't get any better. So I lost one of my main incomes. Mum was sick, and I had to get a real job at the time, as they say. I started packing boxes up here in Auckland for a friend's company, and planting plants in Raglan just to make money for rent. And I was trying to see Mum while she was sick and kind of make her happy. For me, making other people happy makes me happy. So if she's happy, then I'm happy. And I know every time I go over, I knew every time I go over there, she'd be just happy to see me, and it would bring her joy, and it kind of make her happy. So I'd try and do that as much as I can. And I felt like I was pretty low, at the time, and I was struggling a little bit. Luckily I had my wife Liana there to help support me and kind of motivate me and push me through those tougher times. I didn't know what I was going to do. I honestly didn't think I'd be competitive surfing again, because it was so much money and I didn't have the sponsorship, and I just couldn't afford it. And I actually, I wanted to be home as much as I could and help Mum. So yeah, it was a tough time. But in saying that, I think being at that point in my life, it made me realize what I wanted to do. So I got really into surfing again, and I found the love of competing and kind of traveling and doing what I dreamed of. So in a way, I turned a point, and it motivated me to work harder and work in Auckland more and plant more plants and get this money together so I could compete in Australia. And then if I competed on Australia, I could see Mum, and all these things started flowing again. So in a way, it kind of motivated me and turned a switch on me and kind of made me hungry again. And then the Olympics came around. Surfing became an Olympic sport, which was another goal I could achieve, strive to achieve. And then it kind of turned again, and I got another board sponsor, and Backdoor Surf Shop came on board, and all these sponsors started doing better in competitions. Mum was still sick at the time, but I used that as motivation to do well for her and our family and make them happy. And I started doing good again and started winning competitions and getting the sponsorship. And then unfortunately, she got rid of breast cancer for maybe a year or so, and then it came back in a different way, and in her brain and all around her body. So unfortunately, she kind of faded out and passed away a few years ago now. And I still remember that day. It was pretty gnarly. We were actually on our way to see her, because she was, so cancer. A lot of people have, a lot of families have cancer now, so you can kind of see someone deteriorating pretty quickly. And at that time, I think she'd been told that she couldn't basically, keep going. So we were actually, my nana and my sister were on our way to see her, and then we got a phone call that she'd passed away just before we got on the flight. So we actually got there, and she actually looked really peaceful, which is a pretty crazy thing to say, but she looked happy. I think her passing before us being there was actually nicer for everyone, because I don't think saying goodbye is ever easy, and then saying goodbye and then not seeing her again is even tougher. So we spent a day with her, and she got taken away, which was very emotional. And again, I use that as motivation. Everyone's got stuff going on in their families, and you're not alone out there. I always try and let people know, everyone's going to have tough days and good days. But there's always people to talk to, and luckily I had my wife at the time, and pushed me through some very tough times. There's still days now, it's still pretty fresh, and yeah, it's a tough one. But it was motivation, and now I still use it as motivation. She's looking over me, you know, and I've done so well ever since she'd passed. So I know she'd be very proud. And I've got this weird thing as well. When I'm traveling on the road at night, I see like you know, like street lights. They'd like flicker off and then flicker on as soon as I go past. So for me anyway, for me personally, that's like a little sign of them saying hi or her saying hi, and you know, you're on the right path.
I asked your friends about this period, you know, when you're going through adversity and how you changed, and they said you had this ability to remain positive. Like they from the outside, they couldn't really see a difference, which speaks to, I think, the way you dealt with it. But Liana spoke about after your mum passed, you won the Nationals within a month. And she commented on how she didn't know how anyone could have the mental resolve to do that. And it was a really special moment coming out of the water, maybe after you won, where you sort of... Yeah.
So she'd passed away like a week before Christmas, I think it was. And the Nationals is like the first or 2 weeks of January. So yeah, you know, Christmas was a weird one, and then New Year's, you know, it's still so fresh, and but I love competing, and I use that the losses as motivation and drive to do better next time. So I knew Mum passing was going to be a huge motivator for me, and I knew I was going to do everything in my power to win that competition for her. So yeah, I came to the Nationals, and yeah, I do like to be happy around people, you know, like some of my friends say, you know, I feel like I'm quite bubbly and like I can be pretty fun, and I like to make everyone happy, which makes me happy. So yeah, I don't show too many emotions. I always just trying to like have the best outlook on life, and kind of, you know, try not to worry about the past and focus on today and the now. So yeah, that was that Nationals back after Mum passing was real hard for me, but at the same time I had one focus, and that was winning the competition. There was no other stress around me, you know. Mum had passed, and you know, all my friends and family were there, but I wanted to win that competition. I was gonna win that competition, no matter what I had to do and how the conditions were, or you know, nothing was gonna get in my path. So yeah, if anything, it was a huge motivator for me to do it for my mum. And yeah, after I'd won the final, you know, there was a lot of emotions, and I remember looking up to the sky and just saying that one was for you, you know. So yeah, that was a very special national title for me. I think that I can't remember if that was my first or sixth, but yeah, that was a special moment for me, winning that Nationals.
With the benefit of hindsight, and I know you talk about using positives and choosing to see things in the positive, but in that those moments where you were trying to pursue your career, running on a shoestring budget, it sounds like, be support for your mum, really spreading yourself in different areas, have you learnt from that now to avoid that kind of burnout situation moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know if I got burnt out, but like I say, I like to show love to anyone, you know, like say for instance, I don't know, I used to be real shy of coming up to, I don't know, a sports person and saying hi or getting a photo or something. So if I see someone that notices me but they're too shy, I always like try and say something first so it makes them comfortable. So I don't know, I'm always trying to like help people out, and yeah, and obviously I've learnt a lot through my life path, so I'll try and explain to them, you know, that everyone goes through their path, and there's always people to help, and you know, I'm always keen to help some people out. So, yeah.
Just to get all the adversity out at the same time. Some more bad news in 2022. Lost your brother in a car crash. Reflecting on the loss you've suffered, did that change your perspective on life? Like, was that the same as losing your mum, or did the combination change your perspective on life again?
Yeah, losing my brother was a really tough one. That was a sudden one, you know. So mum she had cancer, you know, so they'd almost given her a time kind of thing. So you could kind of prepare for what was to come, whereas my brother was just a sudden thing, which is really tough on our family. It's a pretty hectic story that I won't get into detail about. But yeah, I remember I was in Australia preparing for an event on the Gold Coast, and midnight or something, the phone rings. I was actually asleep and I had my phone off, but the person I was staying with, my wife had called and woken her up, and she'd come down to wake me up. And yeah, I got the bad news, and I flew home the next day. You know, he'd passed away in a car accident. I think he fell asleep at the wheel, and he was only 26, 27. So yeah, I've always had a pretty good outlook on life, I think. I really want to enjoy life. I'm not too worried about, you know, making heaps of crazy money or saving heaps of crazy money, and I'm all about experiences and kind of enjoying life, and you've only got one of them, so you may as well make the most of it. Obviously people have, you know, their own paths and kind of view it differently, but for me, I like to, you know, do all these experiences and travel and enjoy it while I can, because these things can happen, you know. All of a sudden, someone has a car accident, or, you know, gets cancer, or, you know, something bad happens, and then, you know, what have you done, kind of thing. So, yeah, I feel like I've got a pretty good outlook in life, and I'm always trying to be happy, and, you know, not every day is guaranteed, or not the next day is guaranteed. So, yeah, like I say, I try and enjoy every day and try and get as much in as I can, and surf and do all these sports, and try and treat my wife as much as I can and make her happy, and my family as well. You know, there's a lot that comes around being, I guess, a professional athlete, sponsors and media stuff, and so it's definitely a balancing act, but I love it. You know, I love the whole path. I love being here with you guys chatting, and yeah, opening up about this stuff is awesome as well. So hopefully I can, you know, teach people, help people on their journey.
It's an incredible mindset to have. It's service mindset, really, of using the experiences that you've been through to better other people that may be going through that same journey. Not everybody is blessed with that outlook and the ability to see things objectively, to grieve maybe in your own way, but then to teach the lessons. And I understand that you're trying to get out there. The feedback that we got was people just praising you for your efforts in the surf community with Groms, looking to encourage them to achieve the things that you've done, but even surpass the things that you've done as well. Yep. So it's amazing to see that adversity as fuel to fire what you're putting out into the world, and I think that should be definitely commended.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I say, I've learned a lot along my life and career. So now I feel like now, especially as well, I'm 33 and I've probably got, you know, 5 years max, maybe. I don't know. Kelly Slater's like 50, so hopefully I got a few more years. But I'm getting to a point where I really want to give back and help the next generation of competitive surfers and anyone in general, actually, any sports athlete or you know, anyone who's going for a tough time. And you know, I know mental health's pretty tough at times, and yeah, you know, I'm keen to help, and you know, me helping people and making people happy makes me happy. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. You're one of those guys, there's a few of them we've encountered where you walk into a room and you're just upbeat, you give good energy. So it's a pleasure having a chat with you. I want to move into a bit more surfing chat. Do you remember where you were when you heard that officially surfing was going to be in the Olympics?
I don't. I guess there was rumours. At the time, yeah, that was a tough time in my life, you know. Mum was sick, I lost my sponsors, I was working a real job at the time, and I just remember, I kind of remember being like, it came to me and I was like, oh, I could be an Olympian, you know. Like I've always looked up to those. I love all sports as well, so yeah, I like to play a lot of sports, and I like to learn off what they do. Like for instance, basketball, Kobe Bryant, all the Mamba mentality and stuff. I'm really into that kind of stuff. So growing up, I always used to watch the Olympics, and then when surfing became an Olympic sport, I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be the first to do that. I want to be, you know, I want to try and get a medal. I just keep telling myself, imagine being around the best athletes in the whole world, and then you're this like little Kiwi from New Zealand, this little surfer that's, you know, kind of cracked it, made it, and at the top of the top.
And what a great storyline for people to get behind when you made the Olympic team and went to the Olympics. What was your experience?
Yeah,
like?
it was an amazing experience. The whole journey is, you know, I feel like surfing can come across quite cruisy and like it's more of a lifestyle thing. Whereas once it became, actually a few years ago, Mick Fanning started training a lot. Well, it used to be all the older generation used to like party hard out and just go to competitions and, rock up still drunk and win competitions. Whereas I feel like Mick Fanning and a few of those guys turned a bit of a page and started training and treating their bodies a lot better. And obviously he won a few world titles, so it worked and everyone kind of jumped on that. And now I feel like, it's a bit more of a professional sport. So being a part of the Olympics was a very professional sport. And I feel like my campaign was awesome. I trained a lot. I worked with a lot of good people like Woody and Maddie Scorange and Michelle, our awesome little team. And just being a part of a team. Surfing's an individual sport, so being a part of a team, and especially a national team, it was a very special feeling. And they really embraced us. It was like the cool new sport, and everyone kind of knew who we were because there was only two of us going, and it was an amazing experience. Obviously, it was during COVID, but we didn't know any better. So the whole experience for me was just amazing.
Were you happy with you got eliminated by the guy that went on to win the gold, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to go out,
yeah.
best to go against the best. Were you happy with the way that you performed?
Yeah, I was. I prepared as much as I could, and I had the right equipment, and coming up against the best in the world, it's always quite a daunting task, but I love, like I said earlier, I love that type of competition. It kind of brings out the best competitor in me. So I felt like I performed pretty well. I really wanted to get a medal. That was my goal. And I'm gutted I didn't get one. But I've got another chance next year in Paris. So, and coming up against Italo, I knew the conditions were kind of made for him. It was like windy and pretty like unruly and kind of huge air sections, and he's known to do some crazy airs. So, there's a video of me getting a wave and trying a big air, and I kind of come way too far out and land on the flats. But that just reminds me of I kind of gave it everything and left everything out there. And I did make a few heats, and I surfed against the best in the world, John and Italo, and I just recently surfed against Medina in the ISA World Surfing Games and beat him, So there's some cool full name dropping there, but you're coming up against the best surfers in the world and beating them, so it's a real good confidence booster and being a part of that whole scene, and it kind of envisioned me being on the WCT as well, which is another goal I really want to achieve. So being a part of that was like a little stepping stone and a little vision into that.
Where did surfing fall in the Olympic program? Like, was it in the first week or second week or? Yeah,
so we did the opening ceremony. There was only like 6 athletes that actually got to go to the opening ceremony because Team New Zealand were really cautious about the COVID, which is really, good. And they wanted to look after the team really well. But they asked if we wanted to go. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely, it's my first time in the Olympics. So I want to go for sure. So we had all the protection and stuff like that. So we did the opening ceremony. And then I think we had one day out at competition and then practicing at the competition, and then I think the second day in we started competition. So normally it's in the first, they try and run in the first 4 days of the whole games, which I think will be the same for Paris. So it was pretty cool to get that done and dusted. I made some awesome friends over there, and like I said, I love learning off all those other athletes, and I felt like a professional athlete, doing the ice baths and training hard out and eating well, and having the right physio and nutritionist and keeping your mind right. It was a really cool campaign, so hopefully I can do that again.
And once you finished competing and you're in the athlete village, did you let your hair down a little bit?
Well, we weren't really allowed to.
That's not what I asked.
You could walk around the village with your mask on and bump into a few people.
Yeah, cool.
Everyone was happy to, come home with the most medals that New Zealand's ever had. So
celebratory.
It was an awesome trip. Yeah.
We've all been there at the end of an Olympic campaign. Did you visit the McDonald's? Don't answer that.
Right, I'm going to build into the next Olympics with some words from Dave Wood. So we contacted Dave when I heard that you've been doing some breathing stuff with him. Dave is a legend. Listeners of this podcast know, how highly we held Dave, and he had some really great words to say about you. He said, Billy will always be the best surfer at a break in New Zealand, but if he went to Aussie, he'd be surrounded by other top surfers at his level. So Billy has to go off his own back to find what works. Billy's creating the blueprint, which is to use what we have in New Zealand to our advantage, but also be willing to go overseas to get amongst it. But that's challenging as there's not a lot of money in surfing. They have to push and want it. Billy is such a determined person. He's been on the WQS feeder system into World Champion Tour for 10 years. To have that kind of discipline and focus and relentless attitude to get to the top is really something that is limited to a very small percentage of athletes. The guy is willing to go back year after year after year when they don't have the backing that other people from other countries had. He's also a very fierce competitor, natural competitiveness you can't train, willingness to win at any cost type attitude, but also looks after his mates and is caring. What he's achieved on the world stage from New Zealand is unprecedented. He's been accepted into the next Olympics at one of the most intimidating places in the world to surf. Anyone that goes there feels fear, apprehension, tension, the stress that goes with surfing at a place like that. Add to that being under a microscope at the Olympics. It's a huge challenge ahead of him.
Wow. Thanks, Woody. What a legend.
Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah, he is the man.
But it does set the scene nicely about the challenge ahead of you. Why is this place so intimidating?
Yeah, Paris seems pretty relaxed.
Yeah, so it's called the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, but surfing is actually in Tahiti, at Teaupu, which is, for people that don't know what or follow surfing, it's like one of the most dangerous waves on the planet. It's short, shallow reef, really intimidating, comes from really deep water, which, if the swell comes from really deep water and kind of breaks on shallow, dry reef, there's a lot of power and energy behind it. You're getting barreled and there's a tiny little channel with probably like 30 or 40 boats and jet skis right there, so you kind of got to make your way through them. There's the reef, there's a bit of a lagoon that you can get washed over. It's intense over there. But I'm looking forward to the challenge. I've only ever been there once, which was about 6 weeks ago, and it's a very scary place, but it's so beautiful and tranquil at the same time. It's a weird feeling. So the surf is just like so crazy and intense, a lot of energy and power out there, and then on land you got this beautiful scenic mountains and waterfalls and the water is really clear, so it's a beautiful, special place, and I got a lot out last time I went, and about 6 weeks ago, and we went for an ISA World Surfing Games training camp, so it was an Olympic training camp basically, and spent a week over there practicing, and we had coaches and water safety, and we learnt a lot, so I really enjoyed my time, and I'm looking forward to the journey ahead, and I really want to get fit and healthy and mentally strong, and I think working with Woody is going to really help. I feel like out there in a place like that, it's not so much about your ability to do turns or do airs or surf a perfect heat. It's more about pushing yourself and putting yourself over the ledge and putting yourself in that intense scenario of thousands of people watching you, and if you don't go, you're probably gonna look like a little pussy, or or if you do go, you might get smashed, and wearing helmets, and there's a lot going on. So I think working alongside Woody will be really beneficial in this campaign, and I'm really looking forward to the journey ahead. Like I said, my last campaign was really good, and I really enjoyed it. So hopefully this one will be much better, and I'll be able to get a medal.
It seems like you're putting different things into your toolkit as well. Like we talk about Woody with breathing and with stress mitigation. I think you linked up with Albie James in the lead up to the last Olympic Games in terms of mentality. Yep. And then Johnny Rickard at the refinery getting punched in the face. What does that teach you? Literally going combat sports and getting punched in the face, right? Which he gives massive props to you as an athlete way outside of their comfort zone, going into that environment to put themselves in that difficult situation. Yeah. So what do those sort of things teach you, and how do you apply them to your surfing? Yeah,
so I worked with along my whole career, I guess I've worked with a lot of good people, and Albie helped me a lot. That was quite recent after my mum passed as well, so he helped me with that type of stuff as well. So I worked with Albie and then Woody and now Johnny, and I don't know, I've just found the love of boxing's really fun. It's learning something new and just moving in a different way and putting yourself in a different scenario, which is quite intense. But yeah, I guess learning so much, you kind of take it all on board, and you can kind of, you know, take it into competition and tell yourself it's all going to be okay. You might get smacked in the head, but you're going to hopefully walk out of it pretty sweet, you know, in the gym anyway. In the gym, and you're going to walk out and go, okay, sweet, I can take that. And then having time in Tahiti, that kind of, you know, goes into having time in Tahiti, and if I do get smashed and kind of come away unscathed, I'll be like, okay, this is all right. I can kind of push a little bit harder and you know, go a little bit deeper, or and then the woody stuff as well, you know, being in that intense and pressure environment, you know, slowing your breathing, slowing your heart rate down, which kind of puts you and your mind at ease, and, you know, it gives yourself confidence and the ability to do your best. So I'm trying to surround myself with the right people, and it's less than a year away, so I'm going to do all I can. I'm going away to Portugal on Monday or next week, so got a few more competitions to go, and then I'll be Olympic training hard out.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
Go on, mate. Come on, mate. Back yourself.
I am. Because I'm interested in pulling the curtain back on the tour, the surf tour, and what the realities of that actually are. Because it sounds glamorous. It sounds exotic locations, travel, competition. What are the financial realities of that? Because I don't imagine the two are on equal footing.
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough, especially if you don't have sponsorship. So we travel basically, 8 to 10 months of the year, depending on what events we want to chase around the world. And it is taxing, you know, it's time away from friends and family, and commitments around the house. But yeah, and it can be expensive, you know. I'm traveling to Portugal and Brazil, which is expensive just on airfares.
And is that your user pays? Like you've got to put your hand in your pocket?
So basically, I've got a few sponsors on board that look after me and pay me a little wage to, you know, represent their brands and showcase their brands in the best way possible, hopefully. And that allows me to pay for my flights and accommodation and stuff. And to be honest, I'm not making much money. There's, you know, anything I do make goes straight back into my surfing training, you know, paying for gym memberships or physios, or, you know, so any competition wins. If I win big, then it'll probably basically go for savings towards next year. I'm probably going to start doing some fundraisers to get to Tahiti as much as possible, to put myself in the best possible situation to get a medal at the games. So, there's a lot of off your own back, definitely, in surfing. And like I said, without sponsorship, it's really hard. Some people do come home and work for a few weeks, and that, you know, they could be a sparky or a builder, or and then go to competitions. But yeah, it takes the right mind frame, and you got to really want it, I think. And I think I want it hard out.
Am I right in thinking that perhaps back in the day, pro surfers were paid to be good pro surfers, but now in 2023, you're almost more valuable as an influencer? Like your social following is just as important as how you're actually doing out there? Like, have you thought about that? Do you consider being an influencer as a way to...
Well, I guess, sponsorship in a way these days is definitely influencing, you know, like I'm sponsored by RPM, so they kind of pay me to wear and give me the clothes, and then I'll, you know, promote their brand. So it's basically with social media and YouTube and stuff like that, it's basically influencing. Whereas back in the day, there used to be a lot more money around the surf industry, and there's pretty big contracts being thrown around. I went through a couple good years with Oakley, you know, and again, it all went back into travel. But, you know, so I like to. And a lot of surfers get paid and they don't actually travel that much, but I like to travel and I like to compete, so all my money goes back into that, you know. So it's. I think it's a lot harder to get sponsorship because of the social media stuff these days. So a brand could just reach out to some guy who's got 50,000 followers and pay them $2,000 to do a post, and you know, that's probably just going to get as much attention as a sponsored athlete. But it's definitely different now.
So who are the good bastards that are looking after you? You've mentioned RPM.
Yep.
What else? Who else do we need to look out for to support Billy on his travels?
Yeah, so I've got RPM clothing at the moment, which is, you know, Mike and the guys over there at the Mount. I love their stuff. Their clothes are amazing, and it's a New Zealand brand too. Curve accessories. I've got a few. Probably got a list off.
You're very good at this. Your crowd goes wild that you did with Daryl Halligan was amazing in terms of the sponsors. So we'll give you a platform to do something similar here.
Yeah. So Backdoor Surf Shop, Curve. Who else? Barrett Homes. Live Eyewear. Sticky Johnson, which is grip pads and stuff. I have my own Bilbo grip pad. People call me Bilbo because I'm short and look like a hobbit, you know. So, Sharp Eye surfboards, and there's a couple of other people that help me out as well. And obviously I feel sponsorship is hard these days, and I feel like I've always made a conscious effort to like make communication good with my sponsors, which I think helped with Oakley for 13 years. I believe I wasn't like the best surfer in the world at the time, but I've had a really good relationship with my sponsors, and I think they really enjoyed that. So I think that helped me stay with them, because at a time that a lot of people got dropped, and I kind of kept mine. But I try and make an effort every time I come home to see all my sponsors, and if I just could tell anyone out there, any surfers or anyone who does have sponsors, just make an effort with them, because they're looking after you, and they're kind of helping your career and your path to get to where you want to go. So you kind of got to give back and show them some respect and look after them in a way. So I try and make a conscious effort of that.
Just thinking, you should be able to make a bit of money on the speaking circuit upcoming. Like your story is you're so good at articulating your story, and there's so many good lessons there. I've got a couple of questions around surfing, and Shay's written this one, and sharks. Shay's terrified of sharks.
That Mick Fanning is the scariest thing
that's scary.
I've ever seen in my life. When you see that, does that stay in your mind, or how do you park that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I've seen quite a few. I've seen, sorry for all you Mounties, I've seen a shark at the Mount when I was younger. I remember surfing by myself, and there was like a bit of a channel, and then there's a sandbar, and I was surfing the sandbar, and I kind of saw this thing out of the corner of my eye, and I duck dove, so it must have got bumped by a wave or something, and then I paddled in over the deep bit and onto the beach, and when I'd come in, I'd turned around to see where the shark is, and the shark was actually along the beach. So it tried to follow me in. I've seen a couple jump at like in WA and Western Australia at Margaret River, and I was actually watching that
breach.
Yeah.
Oh fuck that.
Yeah. And I was actually watching that Mick Heat live as well, and I was just freaking out. I was watching it on my phone. I remember, and I was like, "Whoa, what the?"
Yeah.
I fully freaked out. Scary.
It popped up on my algorithm again.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I'm not surprised, because my whole algorithm is sharks.
That was the biggest story in the world. I was working at the Herald at the time in the sport department. Like that for about 2 weeks, it just captured everyone's attention.
Yeah, and Mick is like the best guy on the planet. Like he's like the nicest, humblest. He's always got time for everyone, and I got much respect for him. And for him to go through that is so gnarly, and he's come out of it. Like. He's a world champion, and he's doing some awesome stuff now that he's stopped competing, and so that was really intense.
And big wave surfing, I think someone died recently in Portugal as well.
Oh yeah,
Marcio
Freire. Like 80-foot waves. Is that legit?
Nazaré, in Portugal. That's close to where I'm going actually. That's
a very big wave.
Freaky. Oh, that's not for me.
Yeah, okay.
You got to have a whole different mindset for that too, I think. And that's another preparation that only those top 50 guys go through. And I guess growing up in that kind of type of situation helps. So, for instance, the guys in Hawaii, they always get big waves through the winter, and they're way more comfortable in the big surf. So, for me to go and surf an 80-foot wave, I'd just be like way out of my element. And it's just a total different beast. You're towing, and there's just there's so much more energy, and that freaks me out.
That's really interesting to me, because my assumption would be that a wave is a wave is a wave, and a surfer would just try and chase the best wave that they can. But there are levels to the game. Yeah,
for sure. There's big wave surfing, and then there's obviously free surfers as well that get paid to travel the world and basically make surf clips and surf really good waves.
Is that your Laird Hamiltons and those kind of guys?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. He's made I think he made a career out of big wave surfing, and then he built his brand around that. Kai Lenny is another example. He does all water sports. Daniel Kiriopa is a really good example. He's, the foil guy. He's on his kayak and he's still ripped, still charges. He's out chasing.
Ultimate waterman, and that's him, right?
So there's a few of those guys out there for sure. But yeah, that big stuff is just, that's scary. And Tahiti, to be honest, can be pretty big and scary. So like I said, I want to try and get some good experience over there and spend some more time over there so I have a good chance to medal.
When you go to a place like Tahiti and you surf that wave, is that the kind of wave that you can surf day after day after day, or do you need to recover if you've been smashed out there?
Yeah. I reckon you probably need a bit of. It depends on if the surf's pumping or not. I feel like if you're getting hammered and the surf's pumping, it's kind of sweet. You're kind of just frothing and you're back out there. But if you've got a few lay days and you've got actually time to rest, then you definitely should rest. Your body does get pretty torn to pieces, especially if you're hitting the reef. It's live reef over there, and the waves are really solid. So, for instance, Ethan Ewing broke his back just before the event recently, about a month ago, and he's the best in the world. He made the final 5 and got second actually overall after all that. So, and those are the best surfers in the world, and they still get hurt out there. So it is pretty scary and intense, but again, it's a challenge for me that I'm looking forward to.
You're married.
Yes.
And we've spoken about how much you're away from home. I imagine Liana might travel with you sometimes, but majority of the time you're probably traveling alone. What's the secret to keep in, like, for the friends we've talked about, this is a loaded question from them. They're saying you guys have such a strong, successful relationship, but you don't see each other that often. Yeah.
I think we're not in each other's face all the time. Nah. No, I'm kidding. I'm not sure. Liana is so mature and so driven in work and life at home, and then it can be hard for her sometimes when I'm traveling a lot. I'm traveling to these beautiful places, and I am away at times, but yeah, I feel like when I come home, I come home and I try and do as much as I can when I'm home around the house to help her out, because she's basically living by herself at home. So I'll try and come home and cook dinner and try and make a conscious effort of helping her to ease back a bit, because she's got a 9-to-5 job. She's a sales rep for a company and she's traveling quite often. But yeah, I try and make a conscious effort to date nights and try and get her, out and about and spend some time together with our animals, and I try and get on some trips. And just recently we went to America and had an awesome holiday, and I hung the surfboard up, and it was more about her experience America. I've been there a few times, so I kind of put, like I said, surfing's an individual sport, so I try and put her before myself for a little bit. But yeah, I feel like we've got a good balance. We've got a good lifestyle at home. We kind of keep to ourselves at times, and when I come home, I try and train and prepare as much as I can for the next event. And I'm not home for long, so it's a pretty quick turnaround, and it can be tough at times. I come home and I've got a whole lot of washing to do and just dump my shit, and I'm back out to surf. So it's amazing to have her around, and we've been together for over 10 years now, and I probably wouldn't be here without her for sure. That support and trust, I guess, when I'm on the road as well, and that support, she knows I'm chasing my dreams. It's not her dream, but it's my dream, and hopefully in the long run it'll help us both out. But yeah, she's always supported me and always been there for me in the tough times and the good times.
There was a couple of images on both of your Instagram pages from your recent trip to America, and I can't let this slide without asking you. Fisher is a mate of yours?
Yeah, Fisher.
Like Paul Fisher, the DJ, is like genuinely a friend of yours.
Yeah, so Fisher used to actually compete on the same circuit as I do now, the WQS. And yeah, we've become friends through the surf industry, and he's actually come to Raglan a few times when it was him and Lee Seds at Cut Snake years ago now, and they stayed at our house a few times, and we've become pretty good friends. And he's just a really nice guy, he's so funny and fun to hang out with, and now he's become this like pretty much superstar. He's like this crazy DJ, and he's doing so good for himself. It's always he was always bound to do something like this too. He's that type of character. He's really funny. He's always making funny skits and around the competitions and having a laugh. So yeah, and we went to Vegas we actually messaged him. We weren't meant to go to Vegas, but he was playing there, so we kind of made a trip to Vegas for 3 nights and caught up with him and saw him in his element. It was so crazy. We walked into the club and he had actually played another concert in San Fran and just kind of flew in his private jet, and then basically walked up and got all his stuff set up, and we were kind of just he got us tickets and we were in there, and we were just kind of in the VIP section, kind of back with a few other people, and I don't want to be that guy. I'm not that guy to go hey Fisher, we're here type thing. So I kind of just was sitting at the back, and he kind of spotted us and grabbed me and Liana and was and we caught up briefly before he had his set and had a big hug, and we were actually in the booth, and it was just pretty much him at the front and me and Liana in the back, whoa, this is so crazy. But yeah, that was a cool experience, and I haven't seen him in a while. He's pretty big time, and he's busy now. He's in and out of Ibiza and wherever he's going, and he's doing such cool things. So it was cool to spend some time with him, and we actually caught up briefly after the set, and yeah, it was cool to, he's such a nice guy and he's always got time for us, and it was cool to catch up with him.
Seamus had a plan with this question because he went and looked at his Instagram and he saw Fisher had 1.7 million Instagram followers. He's like, do you think if we ask him about Fisher and he says something, then we can collab with it and then he'll share it on his Insta and we'll pick up followers? Do you think you got your goal there, Jay?
I think
Send it to him.
I think Billy's going to do us a solid then slide into the DMs.
Bro, share this.
Yeah, and then he's going to slide into Kelly Slater's as well, and we're going to clip the Kelly Slater one, and we're going to go fucking global.
Collab City.
Collab Kings.
Oh, nice. Looking forward, is there a future where surfing's not? What am I trying to say?
I don't know, man.
Using words, bro. When you hang up the board,
yes,
and you're done with surfing, have you thought about when you stop doing it for money? Have you thought about what is next? Have you thought about, is there a world where you don't do surfing and you do some other job? You go back to working in the garden, or you do something totally separate?
Yeah, for sure. It's been a hard one for me actually in the past years. I don't know. I only know surfing, kind of. So I didn't do a trade, or I didn't study too much during surfing, like my competitions or anything. So surfing's kind of all I know, but it's something I'm pretty keen to get more into after I stop competing and kind of help the next generation of competitive surfers. I feel like I've got a different mental game or mindset to a lot of competitive surfers, especially in New Zealand. So I'd like to help with that. Competition I've done pretty well in national events and international events. So I kind of want to take my experiences and teach the next generation, and helping, whether it be junior camps or go to World Juniors with and be a coach at some stage, or I'm actually doing a camp down in Christchurch to just share experiences and help people get better at surfing. And I started actually getting into talking and kind of sharing experiences with not only surfers but other young athletes, striving to chase their dreams, which I found really beneficial and quite comforting for me, and it was really I felt really good after that, so it's kind of, I'm slowly transitioning into thinking about stuff after, a lot of people say after the Olympics as well, because a lot of athletes train for so long and then boom, that's it. I'm trying to etch my way into, a few other things, and the talking thing's been pretty fun, and it's something I'm pretty interested in to get into, and it's quite intimidating, but public speaking, but I think if I do a lot more of it, I'll be able to help, hopefully it will help someone or a few people in some way.
It's helped me. I've really enjoyed this chat. Shay, any bits and pieces before?
Yeah, outside of competitive surfing, what is it about surfing that you love? So park the competitions to one side.
I just love being outdoors and in the elements. There's not one wave that is exactly the same, so every wave you catch is going to be totally different, which I love about. It's so unpredictable. There's so many different elements to surfing and being in the ocean. It can be dangerous, can be fun, can be sunny, can be rainy, but I just love being in the ocean and being in the surf. It's very refreshing. It's very good for my mental state. I always come out refreshed, even though I have a bad surf sometimes. I just love surfing, and it's kind of, I was brought up to love surfing, and it's just a part of my life now.
And has that got stronger from 8-year-old Billy to who you are now, that connection with surfing and that connection maybe with the ocean?
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate what I do as well. Not many surfers get to travel the world and experience all these beautiful places, and not only competition, but these amazing parts of the world and these awesome waves and people. And so I guess growing up, I was always keen to get the competitions and get sponsored, and as a grommet, I was always keen to win competitions and get all the mean gears. But now I've got a lot more appreciation of the ocean and what I actually do as a competitive, or not as a surfer. Even reading waves in different ways. If I was to take someone out that doesn't really know how to surf, they would probably just go straight on a wave and not really read sections and just be able to read the ocean and enjoy it out there. It's just so much fun. And I don't know, I just love the whole aspect of it.
And then goals-wise?
Goals-wise, obviously Paris coming up, Olympic Games. I really want a medal and bring home a New Zealand medal for New Zealand. Get on that medal tally. I still need to get my tattoo, actually. I haven't had any tattoos, so I want to get the Olympic rings of some sort. But yeah, Paris Olympic Games or Tahiti is one of my probably top goals at the moment. Unfortunately, my Challenger Series events haven't been going great this year, but I've still got 2 more, so there's time to turn that around. And I want to still keep competing, and I slowly want to. I really want to get into the coaching side of things and helping others succeed.
You'll be a great coach. Thanks for coming in and sharing your story and the difficult parts and the good parts. We're going to be watching you with great interest in Tahiti. 2 takeaways for me. I want to start calling kids grommets more. Can I do that?
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah, little grommets.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah.
And the other one is just good. Like you're such a, like all of your friends said, when he steps into a room, it makes it better. Good energy, just optimistic, upbeat, despite the setbacks and the adversity you've suffered. The future is looking incredibly
Thank
rosy.
you very
But
much.
thanks so much for coming
Cheers.
in and having a yarn. But
Thank you.
Sorry to Shay.
Yeah, you encapsulated it. You've said it, you've kind of reinforced it a couple of times, but there's a quote I pulled out which I loved, which is your words saying, "I travel the world, I live the best lifestyle. My job is what I love doing and have always dreamed of doing. I appreciate all that I do and all that everyone else puts into my job and how I travel. But you just have to take it day by day and appreciate the smaller things in life because you never know what could be around the corner or what tomorrow might bring." And I think that view, that perception is a beautiful one. And I said it earlier, to turn the adversity that you've got into fuel to try and help others and have that service mentality is amazing. And I hope more and more New Zealanders discover who you are. I hope New Zealand gets behind and supports your activities and your goals as well. And we really look forward to seeing you rip it up in Tahiti in a year's time.
Thanks very much, boys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's good to have a chat about everything. And hopefully they can do well for us and get a medal in Paris.
Cheers, Billy.